What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another review here at Thomas Open. And as you might have guessed, it is one of my English reviews today. Yes, sirree. I'm just in the mood for an English review. I try to post them as often as I can, and I often don't do it as often as I should. Figure that one out. What we're talking about here is a beer from a brewery that I have really started to appreciate lately. It is Halve Tamme, and it is their Hopes. It is their bourbon barrel-aged barley wine, 2201. I think that's when it was probably brewed, 22, the year, the first of somewhere in January. It is a water, barley malt, hop, and yeast. Basically, it is just a barley wine, nothing weird, nothing odd. Aged in bourbon barrels. It doesn't actually specifically say which. I could quickly check. Because I happen to have a spare phone here by hand. Because I had to check something in a previous review. So I can quickly check if Untapped might have information on what it was aged in. This is always fun to check because, you know, I like to have that information on hand. Yeah, there we go. Hopes 22. Yeah, it doesn't say. It doesn't actually say. It just says American barley wine, so we can expect something a little bit more hoppy. But yeah, it doesn't say what bourbon it was aged on. Doesn't actually matter, but it's just information that I like. Maybe it was just several bourbon barrels, and they figured we're not going to list all of them. They just got their hands on several barrels, which is, you know, always a possibility. Doesn't actually need to be. Don't know how big this batch was. It doesn't actually mean that they used one type of bourbon barrel, or they were not allowed to put it on there. I don't know how it works in the bourbon world, but there are several Scotch single malt whiskey distilleries that do not allow their name to be put on other labels. And we're talking, mostly this happens for the, oh, Gary's still fucking mighty. Mostly this happens when they're talking about the, of course, independent bottlers, but technically that means when these barrels are being used for aging beers on, also not allowed to put that name on because you're making money with their name. And certain distilleries that are being owned, well, yeah, we all know big beer, but there's also big whiskey, of course, and some of them do not appreciate other companies earning money by using their name. Greedy little bastards. We're getting there. God, sometimes I really hate wax. There we go. Here we go. It's open. It's not gushing? No. For a second there, I was afraid it might gush. So when we pour this, yeah, that's not gonna gush. I'm gonna have to give this a hard, aggressive pour. This pours like a barley wine, all right? This is dark and gnarly, and yeah, we're just gonna pour that out later. This is dark and gnarly and gnarly? Why is it gnarly? I don't know. It just gives that impression to me. It is dark. It looks. Look at the way that sticks to the glass. Look at that. Hardly has any head on it. No carbonation whatsoever. Basically, no carbonation at all. And it is relatively clear beer. I mean, this is one of, if you age a barley wine, forgotten, it was like over 10 years, you're going to get this wonderful, you know, murkiness to it. This, of course, hasn't seen a lot of age. From what I can gather, this was brewed earlier this year. Probably aged for 7 or 8 months, considering when I saw when it was released. And if this was indeed brewed, if 22 and then 01 means January, this was, you know, that. Let's just go into the nose and see what we can find. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah. That's. There's definitely still a hoppy character to it. There's this big malt forward nose, of course. First you get this sort of dark brown bread, you get the sticky dried fruit thing going on. You get a bit of a marmalade thing, so I would say that the sort of bitterness that you could get from the darker malts and the combination, and of course hops, and the fact that whatever hops they used could give you that orangey thing. It gives me a marmalade vibe. That's just me. There's a oaky vanilla thing going on. You definitely do get that this is bourbon barrel aged, as in you get notes of bourbon, but I don't think this has seen a barrel for like a year and a half or even a year. This was probably something that was aged for something along the lines of 5 to 8 months, something in between. It has this sort of soft, funky thing in the back. I don't know if I can't really specify it, but it has this sort of dirty thing to it, which I really like. I'm not gonna call it infected, but if you look at one of my favorite breweries when it comes to these barrel-aged barley wines and things is La Calavera from Spain. And their stuff has this sort of, I wouldn't call it mixed ferm, I wouldn't call it open fermentation or wild barley wine, whatever, but a lot of the stuff they do is sours. So there's this funky, it probably just lingers in the brewery, all these bacteria. And it gives a lot of their beers this sort of funky, dirty thing. And I kind of get that here, but in a very good way, in a very positive way. Again, this isn't farmhouse funky or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But it has this sort of dirty edge to it, which I like. It's a bit vinous. Big red fruit component. Got this sort of savory thing in the background. Not necessarily like umami, but something that has a savory expression. Definitely fruity. I like this. I like this. I wouldn't have immediately said American barley wine when I smelled this. I probably would have said just barley wine, but I can get where they're going with the sort of extra fruity note. Oh, I like this. The bourbon really just adds a little bit of extra dimension here. You get a little bit of vanilla, you get a little bit of a sort of like a wet oak thingy going on, but there's nothing that is big on like bourbon. It's not like no, you know, where you get like lots of coconut from some bourbon barrels, or like the big amounts of char that you get from some of these bourbon barrels. Like they have been aged for God knows how long. For all I know, this were second or third filled bourbon barrels, you know, and only 5 or 6 months, like I said. What I'm saying is it just adds a nice little extra dimension without taking anything away from the barley wine itself. This is a good thing. I like it. Let's take a sip and see what we can find. Cheers. Oh, well, that was the phone that fell. The other phone. Dear God, that is Moorish as fuck. That is definitely, you get a lot more of that nearing that soy sauce umami savoriness. There's a lot of savoriness in this. Like nearing that. Some of those beers have that near beef stock savory note, you know? You don't taste beef stock, beef stew, but it has that near level of intensity and savoriness. There's a bold sort of like chocolate raisiny thing going on. Definitely a hoppy note. There's definitely something in the background that says I have hops that now have aged, not like old hops. They didn't use old or aged hops, but you know the hops have faded a bit because it's been barrel aged, and you get that. So you get that sort of extra fruity note, that sort of, like I told you, that marmalade thing, because there's a nice level of bitterness. You get that chocolate, and then there is that soft vinous thing, and again that dirty note. That I can only explain it as a dirty note. You feel anything dirty in your mind. Fill in the blanks when I say dirty in your mind, whatever you want. If Harry Meadows is watching this and he's thinking of me and dirty, I know exactly what he's thinking of, and he can do whatever he wants with that as well. But this is delicious. This is fucking amazing. Mm. Yeah. I mean, it's got this sort of, for a second there I had like this smoky thing. What is that? You get this near burnt sugar, caramelly sweetness. It's like licking your lips good. It's like licking your lips good. It's like really. This is where you're getting that sort of char, earthy, dirty barrel thing, woody thing. Fuck me, this is bloody brilliant. This is fucking amazing. This is really fucking delicious. This is really fucking delicious. I've had this for in my cupboard for like a month or two now, and I wish I tried it earlier. This is absolutely stellar. This is absolutely delicious. When I checked on tap, there were a few people talking about it being under carb. So basically, there is no carbonation. Oh, there's carbs in here, all right. It's 12.3% ABV. I never mentioned that. It is. Let me check that bitch. Yeah, it's 12.3% ABV. It's a 37.5 centiliter bottle. Some people. So I'm going to tell you right here, right now. Carbonation is a big thing in beer. People often don't understand how important the right level of carbonation is in each different style. And yes, I suppose this beer, the flavor might have been slightly more impactful with a little bit more carb, but for me, the way this is carved right now, the level of carbonation in this is perfect for me. I would not want more carbonation in this personally. The way the flavor, the way this is such a gentle sipper, like a port, like a fine aged port, where you just take these small sips. Because when there's a little bit too much carbonation, you want to get a bit of impact in the flavor, and you don't want it to evaporate. You maybe take bigger sips. This is just such a herbaceous, burnt bitter thing, smoky. I am going to have so much trouble checking this in because I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe it properly, except that this is just bloody fucking amazing. I adored this. I adored this, and yeah, I mean, I've got 2 IPAs over there, which I'm going to enjoy for the rest of the afternoon. This is my Sunday afternoon reviewing. Douglas was here yesterday. We did some stuff in terms of beer. Get your dirty mind out of the gutter. We did some beer stuff and watched a movie, and this morning made a good breakfast. He left about an hour and a half ago, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to review a few things. I'm just going to review 3 beers. 4 actually. I'm going to be very honest. One was a drain pour. It was a beer that just really that was a drain pour. And these 3, a West Coast double IPA, a hazy double, and this one are definitely going to be my afternoon treats. Have some dinner and just, enjoy my day. This is delicious. This is definitely one of my... Brouwerij Halve Tamme is definitely doing great stuff in their dark beer category. And this is no exception to that rule. I adore them for what they're doing. This is fucking good. And that's it for this review. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you really liked it, what are you supposed to say? Smash that subscribe button. I think that's the youth lingo or something along those lines. I lost my train of thought. Sometimes my train of thought is just like a derailed train going everywhere, In the description box below, you'll find links to all of my social media, a link to the Dutch Beer Collective, and a link to mysterybeer.nl. Please go check out my friends in the Dutch Beer Collective. You can find their channels through that website. Gerben, Douglas, and Remy, hit them up with some subscriptions and likes as well. Leave some comments, and I'll see all of you guys in another review soon. Cheers.